So I think we should start the program, and so I see everyone is here. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure to be host. My name is Rajiv Kumar, and I'll be hosting this event. As you know that it's 8 March, and we are celebrating International Women's Day. So I wish you everyone happy International Women's Day, and also happy Holi to my Indian friends and those who celebrate Holi.
Holi is today.
Yeah, that's great.
So I realized that it got disconnected from my end. So can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
last year in 2022, Umran Academic Research Association, UARA, conducted an event on the same day to celebrate the International Women's Day. And we had our respected guests on the day. So this year we are continuing the tradition with the theme, My Soul is Woman, which is inspired by the book of Annemarie Schimmel. We pay tribute to Annemarie Schimmel for her academic contribution. Her works help us overcome patriarchy at multiple levels in order to succeed. Annemarie Schimmel was born on 7th of April 1922 to Protestant and middle-class parent in Erfurt, Germany, and died on 26 January 2003. She was a very influential woman scholar who wrote extensively on Islam, particularly on Sufism. From 1967 to 1922, she was a professor at Harvard University. Her mystic approach to feminism makes her special and universal. She represents peace, harmony, and a message for humanity. I would like to quote her, which caught my attention. My intention with this book, My Soul is a Woman, is not suddenly join the mainstream of feminism, feminist criticism, but rather to explore a new approach, one that I hope will lead to a better understanding of women's role in Islamic mysticism. This theme, My Soul is a Woman, serves an important reminder of the critical role that women have been playing in shaping human history and spirituality and mysticism throughout history, as well as their ongoing role, contribution to these fields. As we celebrate International Women's Day, it is crucial to recognize the ways in which women have been historically marginalized and excluded from certain spheres of influence, including academia, spirituality, and mysticism. It is vital to recognize and honor the contributions of women scholars and activists like Schimmel, who have worked to advance gender equality and promote peace and understanding across cultures. Rabia al-Basri and Fatma al-Sukutruya are some of the notable female Sufi who actually initiated and have a critical role in shaping the development of Islamic mysticism and spirituality. These women and many others have had a impact. I would request everyone to mute their mic. These women have many, these movement and many others like them have had a profound impact on Islamic spirituality and mysticism, emphasizing the importance of empathy, compassion, and love, and highlighting the interconnectedness of all beings. The theme, My Soul is a Woman, draws on the idea that the soul embodies compassion and empathy, often portrayed as feminine aspect of human experience. This is reflected in the Arabic word Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, which is also a manifestation of Allah or God, which are derived from the same root as womb and are often seen feminine gender. The soul is seen as a manifestation of the word Ar-Rahman or compassionate and is associated with the feminine qualities. This idea also has resonance in the other culture and religious traditions, such as in a Vedic literature, where God is sometimes or most of the times referred to as the mother goddess, emphasizing the nurturing and life-giving qualities often associated with femininity. The theme, My Soul is a Woman, is significant for International Women's Day because it highlights the importance of recognizing and honoring the contribution of women to all aspects of society, challenging traditional gender roles, and emphasizing the need for equality, justice for all individuals, regardless of their gender identity. To celebrate this day, UARA, Umran Academic Research Association, is hosting an event with two distinguished scholars, Professor Miriam Cook and Professor Mosbiji Banerjee, as our guests. Professor Miriam Cook is Braxton Caravan Professor of Arab Culture at Duke University, USA. Her research concerns Middle Eastern and Arab world studies. She focuses on modern Arabic literature and critical assessment of women's role in the public sphere. She has written many books and articles. She is a co-editor of the Journal of Middle East Women Studies. She is also advisor for Umran Academic Research Association, Turkey. Professor Mosbiji Banerjee is a professor and head of Department of English Literature, the English and Foreign Language University, Regional Campus, Shillong, India. She is also an associate with the Indian Institute of Advanced Study, Shimla, India, and also advisor for Umran Academic Research Association, Turkey. Her research interests include literary theories, postmodern criticism, Western philosophy, text language, hermeneutics, poetic language, women's role, and writings about women and film criticism. We welcome our guests and advisors. We have a long list of program, but we will stick to our time, 1.5 hours. So let me give a brief description of our event today. Taiba Riaz, hero for this event, a French but Pakistani origin, a master's student at Alliance of Civilization Institute, Ibn Khaldun University, Istanbul. She will speak of her experience in developing her concept of unity within diversity, UWD. She is founder of the UWD, and we are organizing this program in collaboration with UWD. Then we have Professor Mosbiji Banerjee, Head of Department of English Literature, English and Foreign Language University, Shillong. She will be speaking on unwomaning the woman with the Dickinson discourse. Then we have Dr. Amina Hussain, who is assistant professor at the Khwaja Muhyiddin Chishti Language University and in India, and she will be speaking on the digital gender gap in India and analysis of access, implication, and strategy for inclusive development. Then we have some volunteers and students and teachers from Umran, Aisha, Saeed, Hiral Kavlani, Nahid Aslam, and other Shivani and Salima Khan will be speaking about the roles, their roles actually in Umran's Women and Rural Empowerment Program. Then I'll be giving, we are previewing our magazine that on this day. So I'll be talking about that Umran's Women's Magazine. Then we have a closing remarks by Professor Miriam Cook. So without further ado, I would like to invite Taiba Riaz to share her story. So welcome, Taiba.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you. Is the light and my voice clear enough?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much for the invitation, Rajiv. I'll try to keep it very short, even though Unity University is quite a long topic in philosophy. So I'll begin by thanking everybody for coming, and for those who will join later. My warm hello to the professors. And thank you, Rajiv, for inviting me. It's an honor to be the first to speak out of this great panel that we have today. I must say that a few weeks ago, I mean, that's a bit of an anecdote, but a few weeks ago, we were having a tea with Rajiv by the Bosphore. And as I was explaining to him the concept, I mean, the philosophy of Unity University, he got so amazed by it that he told me, Taiba, I want you to speak on that day. And bless your heart, Rajiv. I feel really supported by you and by Umran. So it's very an honor. So I must say that I'm not the only one in Unity University. We are actually five ladies. So the credit goes to 5 people here, along with other volunteers that are helping us create their philosophy, which is called Unity Within Diversity. And it is seen as a concept where we see the multi-dimension of people, whether they have different languages, ethnics, culture, follow a particular philosophy or school of thoughts, and trying to find the unity between all of those. So it is a bit of a center of knowledge that we're trying to create, and it's still in a very baby stage right now. But by having these 5 ladies, these 5 women that are coming from different parts of the world, such as me, for example, as a French, Pakistani, Kashmirian. We have an American, we have a Iranian, we have an Uzbek who grew up in Russia, and we have an Albanian, so someone from the Balkans. When we are having our weekly meetings, it is a fusion of all of this diversity. It's really great to see how women from different parts of the world can just find their bubbles there. Obviously, it's not just for women; it's also for men and for brothers. But when Rajiv, you told me to read that book of Annemarie Schimmel, I thought, okay, well, what an interesting topic, and I did find a lot of similarity on the way she would praise ladies, and that's something that is quite missing in this modern time, where we tend to see women and men as equal, and we're trying to have this equality, where equality of rights and the equality of gender, it's a topic that shouldn't be just a fight. It should be celebrated in a way that we are different, so that we have this dimension of diversity of gender. And we focus too much on the differences and how we're trying to include this inclusion between gender, whereas we should be focusing on the unity, what actually brings us together as a gender difference. And I must say that the ladies, and that's also spoken in the book, the lady from the Balkans, for example, or the lady from Russia, isn't the same. They're all different, but they have this unity, this unification of a gender, and that's quite of an important thing. So I would like to also explain the way Rajiv, last year, we were in class attending a conference together, and one of our professors mentioned some philosopher, and as they were mentioning Aristotle and Ibn Sina and Averroes and all of those classical philosophers, Rajiv actually stopped the class and asked the professor, why shouldn't we learn ladies philosopher? Why is there not a lot of philosophers, ladies, that we cannot study from? And the professor got a bit stuck by this question. Then it was quite thought-provoking that we could see some sisters, some ladies revolting, saying, yes, Rajiv is right, we should be studying ladies philosophers. And I really appreciate that by Umran, that it's helping promoting this inclusivity, and despite the diversification. And I really, really appreciate that in Umran, and that's why UWD and Umran are usually and often working together. I must also add that when we celebrate, when Unity University celebrates the Women's Day, we believe also that we don't need a particular day to be celebrated. It is just a symbol, most of all. I guess every day men and women should be celebrated for their humanness, for their passion and their comfort that they bring to each other. As a Quranic worldview, there is a verse that says that we have been sent as a child to each other, while we are also a comfort and a discovery to each other. So on those terms, we're trying to implement this softness and this beauty of what the Quran and other philosophy brings to gender mix. So in the article that will be published by the magazine, I wrote also that we can celebrate woman identity as much as we like, but a woman and a man, we cannot be anything without a man neither, where a man cannot be anything without a woman also. So it is a win-win situation here. And we must also include on that beautiful day or like that celebration day, the men also and their attribution, such as today, Rajiv. Am I doing fine on the timing or? You're on mute, Rajiv, I can't hear you.
Yes, thank you very much, Taiba. If you are finished, otherwise it's your day.
I think I would like to quickly have our professor speaking. So I really warmly welcome you, and Unity University and all its volunteers are welcoming everybody and those who will be joining later. Welcome to our professors, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Taiba. It was really, thank you very much. I just want to thank you and for being, you have also a good contribution to Umran. You have been taking care of me also, like, being a friend. So thank you very much. I learned so many things from you as well, and we grow together. Thank you very much again. So we would like to now invite Professor Mosmiji Banerjee for this title, Unwomaning. Sorry, I forget the title. Unwomaning the Dickinson discourse. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. So thank you very much, Raji, for that. So hello, everyone. My name is Mosmiji Banerjee. I'm speaking from the English and Foreign Languages University Regional Campus Shillong. As you know, that is situated in the state of Meghalaya in India. And I'm truly thrilled to be meeting you all today after quite long on the occasion of the International Women's Day. So a very happy International Women's Day and a very happy Holi, the unique festival of colors to you all. I heartily thank Rajiv for organizing this, and he has been tirelessly working out each of these academic programs from Umran and the UARA with remarkable tenacity and meticulousness. So when Rajiv asked me to speak today, I was really, searching for, issues or ideas as to what to speak on, because now I'm also the director of, the regional campus in Shillong, of the English and Foreign Languages University. So, I have tremendous administrative responsibilities at the art. So I'm now, you see, more of an administrator than an academic, in fact, but kind of trying to balance both ways. Let me begin today. Before I enter into what I have to do, um, I would like to begin today with deep condolences for all the people of Turkey and Syria, who have been hit by, I would say, one of the deadliest earthquakes. I don't know why we are not talking about it, that the world has ever seen. It's been a month since the devastating earthquakes in the two countries. Once I asked Rajiv about this, with officials putting the number of deaths in Turkey alone at 45,968 and still counting, I believe. Rajiv would be in a better position to say that. In Syria, more than 6,000 are known to have lost their lives. Those who survived face an uncertain future. One of their most serious problems is finding somewhere, safe to live. At least 1.5 million people are now homeless, and it's unclear how long it'll take to find them proper shelter. So this is really a crisis time, I believe, that we are surviving in. But I'm really glad to see you all here on this platform today. I think you all are doing well, and I hope you are all safe and sound at your places. So with that, I would begin. I mean, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know what to say, but take it as it is in your place. So with that, we celebrate this day to, normally the International Women's Day is celebrated to hail the historical, cultural, and political achievements of women. And one such woman, you say, I was just thinking of whom to speak. And I was thinking over here of someone called Emily Dickinson, um, who I don't know. I mean, I feel very close to, somehow very eerily though, but I feel that connect with her oeuvre. Or should I say, I'm talking about Dickinson, the non-woman, or no woman, since to me, she was so wholesome, a human individual, that I personally don't think she could be really termed as something while not being something else. So I take this opportunity to celebrate her and her phenomenal body of work, of course. I mean, in this limited space of time, some select works of hers, and I'm happy to be talking about her today. And I've named this as you said, unwomaning the woman with Dickinson. I just named it because that's something that I felt she was doing through her work, a discourse. A remarkable kind of a discursivity that is inimitable, that perhaps sometimes is eerie, and sometimes is ununderstandable and shockingly. I always say Dickinson's work was, shockingly creative. So this was work that I was doing as a part of my Fulbright postdoctoral project, for which I worked as a visiting scholar at Amherst College at Amherst, Mass. with that, I would like to share my thoughts with you on some of the Kantian resonances. I was equally, and I am still equally interested in resonances of Kantian thought in Dickinson's oeuvre that I find in her poems to be echoing sometimes overtly and at other times covertly. There was much of a discussion on Annemarie Schimmel's work, My Soul is a Woman, as you were saying, the feminine in Islam, in which Schimmel discovers a treasure trove of ideas and imagery revealing the role of women in this religious tradition. This scholarly yet extremely readable book documents the historical and textual role of the feminine in Islamic spirituality. And the author does a great job of handling Quranic texts as well as folk poetry and literature. She examines a much misunderstood feature of Islam, and that is the role of women. She is critical of those, especially Western feminists, that take Islam to task without taking the time to comprehend the cultures, languages, and traditions of the many societies in which Islam is the majority religion. And this is how Schimmel reconstructs an important but little known chapter of Islamic spirituality. So while we ruminate in My Soul is a Woman, I'm reminded almost compellingly of one of Dickinson's poems called The Soul Selects Her Own Society, that she wrote around 1862, where she puts it in an astoundingly aesthetic manner. And she says, and I quote her here, she says, the soul selects her own society, then shuts the door. To her divine majority, present no more. Unmoved, she notes the chariots pausing. At her low gate, unmoved, an emperor be kneeling upon her mat. I've known her from an ample nation. Choose one, then close the valves of her attention like stone. In the mire and confusion of everyday life, the only faculty that remains in the dark, or at least very often is dangerously threatened to, is that of thinking, an act that is, in its intenser sense, can be considered pronominal to the act of philosophizing. The reality of this fact is that human beings are potential thinkers, but not all are actually so. Hence, thinking is an action that is made possible by a deeper seeing into things, objects, and circumstances of the life that is lived every moment. This seeing into demands, in its turn, a deeper perspicacity that gives birth to resounding questions about the truth of existence, both of man and the world. This threefold pursuance of truth, that is, thinking, seeing, questioning, is an endless process that sometimes baffles the engaged mind and causes it to rise above the considerations of the material world, which only emerges as a secondary form of truth to it. The insatiated mind then seeks more in the course of this endless phenomenon and tries to weave a mental narrative that is often complex, sometimes ingenious, and at other times personal. But the most elated form of such mental activity would be transcendental. And the mind can be said to achieve this height of transcendentality when it is able to see things as pertaining to one whole that cannot be otherwise humanly envisaged in its totality. The mind becomes the site for perpetual construction and reconstruction of the world, a startling performative that ideates, struggles to express, undoes such expression, and creates again. In the process, what we get are flashes of truth, and through such flashes, an image of a constructed world, perhaps truer than the one felt to be true by virtue of it being lived. Dickinson perhaps was one such mind that refused to accept the world as it is, and startlingly so at a time when women were forbidden to engage in writing or to receive higher education, though higher education was, you know, spreading gradually through, centers of study. Her times, at the same time, were conspicuously proscriptive, but she was herself seldom limited to the existing literary and intellectual injunctions. In this sense, she was not only an emancipated thinker, but also an intuitive creator. Thinking was her forte, and her supposedly self-imposed renunciation was but to cerebrate, not celebrate, cerebrate deeply on her experience of the world and its nature. Her silence was rather deceptive, since the volume of her writing seldom demonstrates this feature. She valued silence only to enable herself to speak her mind. For this, she preferred the verse to be her manner of conversation with the world, a complex form of dialogue that was a part of her attempt, either consciously or unconsciously, to know the world. This conversation was an entirely inward experience that was intensely contemplative, renunciatory, and thus deeply philosophical. Suzanne Juhas remarks, her move into the mind can best be understood as occasioned by her social and psychological situation as a woman who wanted to be a poet. But it is also important to note that the contradiction lay in the fact of her wish to be a poet, and at the same time, her unwillingness to publish her poetry, since she asserts, and I quote over here from her poem, one of her poems, poem number 709, where she says, publication is the auction of the mind of man. I repeat, publication is the auction of the mind of man. Poverty be justifying for so foul a thing. Poverty is better than publication. Hence, mind is to her not only a space of the poet's own, but the source of knowledge of her own existence. Interestingly, when she was a student at the Amherst Academy and later at the Mount Holyoke Female Seminary, she was intellectually exposed to academic philosophy that consisted of textbooks that dealt with mental philosophy, moral science, logic, rhetoric, classical literature, criticism, and the philosophy of the human mind. It is perceivably from her school years in the 1840s that she had been growing up amid a cultural ethos that was vibrantly philosophical and scientific at the same time. She herself delighted in the study of 4 subjects, as she jubilantly shares with someone called Abia Root in one of her letters, and she confesses, where she says, I have 4 studies. They are mental philosophy, geology, Latin, and botany. She continued to remain interested in philosophy. And noteworthy here is the fact that she was closely acquainted with Isaac Watts's On the Improvement of the Mind, which was a requirement of her academic curriculum at the Mount Holyoke Female Seminary. Even though she was reading the contemporary philosophers, she always had an inquisitive mind that sought to fearlessly question everything that she was taught to read and believe. Whether Dickinson can be envisaged as an organized and systematic philosopher may be debated in multiple ways, but that she had a palpable numinal disposition in her thought can seldom be gainsaid. The unseen for her constituted the best things, in a manner as unheard melodies were sweeter for John Keats in his Christiana and Ode, which of course is not unknown to any one of us. And this negative capacity, negative within quotes, you know what I mean? You see, this negative capacity created the innumerous possibilities that her verse resonated so overwhelmingly. The fact of this multiplicity of dimension that the non-visual can have bears the urgency of being seen as realized and pronounced in terms of immediately felt and experienced associations and a finer act of poetic utterance. The poet says over here, beautiful. Just get the lines. I felt a cleaving in my mind. I repeat, I felt a cleaving in my mind, as if my brain had split. I tried to match it, sim by sim, but could not make them fit. The thought behind, I strove to join unto the thoughts before, but sequence raveled out of sound like balls upon a floor. The theme of disorganization and doubt is not merely poetic misgiving here, but a reality that the speaker lives through and remains experientially unable to weave together into a seamless sequentiality. She addresses a psychosomatic convulsion that she senses within and perhaps helplessly attempts to give expression to the lack emerging from the fact that 19th century physiologists and phrenologists did not really speak to the philosophical questions of the patterns in imaginative or reasoned thought. The mental landscape, within quotes, mental landscape, this mental landscape was still I would say intractable and needed a commensurate vocabulary, a fact that constituted a major challenge for the poet to conceptually meet. The irreconcilability between the medico-physiologico phrenological idiom and a poetic associationist expression is revealed through the poet's tropological redescription of two practically dissonant, though theoretically complicit ideas. Because she says, sequence seems to ravel out of sound, like balls upon a floor. The poet here perhaps makes an attempt to draw her reader's attention to the impossibility of conjoining thought a priori and thought a posteriori. a feature that poetry also has to demonstrate in order to bear the truth about the failure of any human attempt to be able to conceive of the mind's myriad intricacies and the way in which it functions. Sharon Cameron observes in Dickinson's poetry the apparent paradoxical quality of creation of the fiction of disorientation while rescuing the reader from the fact of it. For Dickinson, this peril of uncertainty and skepticism is concerned with the unknowability of the convolutions of the mind and its mystifying inconsistencies and disjunctions. Jed Depman aligns this poem with the neo-Kantian group, emphasizing repeated attempt and failure. She says, I tried to match, but could not. I strove to join, but Dickinson was, in this manner, gradually slipping into the Kantian romantic vocabulary of beauty and the sublime in ways that were not merely experimental, but were shockingly new and inimitably revolutionary. She had already begun to be exposed to, as I said, German philosophy in general, and to the Kantian system of idealism in particular, through the eminent New England thinkers like Emerson, let's say, as her commitment to a new poetics, her various emphases on the mind as an active, dangerous, and powerful experimental agent, and her idiosyncratic departure from religious orthodoxy, resiliently demonstrated her artistic affiliation to the evolving ethos of the discourse of the mind. The extent of the mind is boundless, and hence Dickinson would seldom fall prey to the allurement of potentially attempting to define every object in nature. Her art entailed a delving deep into the realm of possibility, not certainty. She shares Kant's consternation that the mind, more often than not, is inescapably driven to knowing, is that which cannot be known, or in other words, transcends all knowing. For her, the posture, she says this, the posture of our immortal mind was significantly different from an imperceptive material conception that does not necessarily impress upon human thought, in that it is the modes of thinking that conform to the objects presented in nature, thereby leading the way to the formation of knowledge. She had this clear vision of the metaphysical function of the mind, and expresses her consciousness of the sly presumption, I quote this from her, sly presumption that it is often tendentially driven toward. As Ben Kimple suggests, on the essential point of an ideological convergence between Kant and Dickinson, the former, that is Kant, made his moral philosophy breathe through the acts of his life, thereby enacting the character inherent in the idea of person. The idea of person he strove, or the person he strove to conceptualize. And the latter, that is Dickinson, made her entire life a stark emblem of the poetry she created, in a way as to almost live her poetry herself. A conscious nurturance of this character has always been fundamental to Kant's philosophical system, in which a person needs to cultivate certain capacities to gain experiences he otherwise would not have had, had he not conditioned himself thus, right? This faculty of the human mind is not given a priori, but is rather developed as a person comes to have certain enriching experiences beyond the material and the sensuous. This form of sensitivity discloses to the person such properties of objects that it is within his nurtured capacities to be able to see and experience. In other words, in order to have a sense of the transcendental, one needs to possess this, and I quote this, self-perception, which not only enables him to weigh and judge the essential value of an object, but also realize the inherent unity that it shares with other objects within the intuitive domains of space and time. A fundamental quality that validates the existence in a world of relativity and relationality. In the poem, and I quote from her once again, in poem number 435, she says, "Much madness is divinest sense." Look at the beauty of the line. Much madness is divinest sense to a discerning eye. Much sense, the starkest madness. Much madness is divinest sense to a discerning eye. Much sense, the starkest madness. So in this poem, the speaker nurtures a discernment or perceptivity that could envisage the transcendental through the starkest form of madness. The verse throbs with an oracular strain of a possible triumph of realization that the divine, a sense only the sane within quotes, sane, I don't know what that means, right? A sense only the sane is endowed to possess, as opposed to the demurrer, who in his denial of this truth is straightway dangerous and handled with a chain. She says this, straightway, the demurrer is straightway dangerous and handled with a chain. That is the irony. But what is interestingly undenying here is the Kantian tenor of again, sensing, thinking, conceiving, perceiving, seeing, and realizing the source of all knowledge. In brief, a process that is achievable only by a poetic employment of much madness. The autonomy of Dickinson's poetic self leads her to exercise her free will that helps her transcend the boundaries of empirical evidence. Epistemologically, Dickinson reveled in to me, what is called transcendental idealism that was envisaged by Kant, whereby, you see, the transcendental self emerges when the external environment is variedly perceived through the passage of time, as a result of which emerge manifold perceptions or representations that together constitute a product of intuition. The poetic anxiety lies here in that flicker of wisdom, whizzing past the poet's mind and never coming back to her again. That is, I think, what is madness. The verse poses faith in the mind's capacity to achieve the subliminal depths of the innate laws of thought but at the same time, in a perspicaciously Kantian manner, realizes the limit or inadequacy of the imagination to completely visualize the noumenon, that madness, the unknowable. Her keen insight into the mental phenomena, nevertheless, helps her perceive the irreducible presence of the thing she met before, because you see, that thing never comes back to her again. That that very flicker of wisdom that goes forever. But imagination apart, she is also aware of the obvious insufficiency of human language that can befittingly reify such an ethereal confrontation between the poet and that thought that never comes back to her again. The poet, the confrontation, between the poet and the thought. She remains in quest of an appropriate philology by delving deep into her imagination to express the hitherto elusive transcendental vision. Despite the limitation of the finiteness of language, in grasping the ungraspable, because she doesn't know how to describe that, she does repose faith in imagination's power that can lead her to the apotheotic destination she is endeavoring to achieve, since she reminisces by saying, somewhere in my soul, I know I've met the thing before, something that never comes back. In poem number 701, here one cannot but allude to her, to the poet's inclination toward German affective metaphysics, and the way in which she was touched by the resulting emergence of transcendentalism, much in the manner of Emerson, Parker, and the other Thoreau and the others. The verse is a felicitous expression of her engagement with a neo-Kantian slant, with a solitary, self-reliant, and thoughtful poetic practice, or what could be said to be a new poetics. One might say that would emerge from a rigorous, dauntless, robust, and an avant-garde mind. So you see, that is how the feminine and perhaps the feminist self is realized, right? But if we describe it in that way, that would be, amounting to confine her poetry to the feminine and the feminist, of course, some element of which, of course, is there within all of us, some way or the other, we practice our ideas, very actively. So, that is exactly what, is, feminine, or, the feminist for me, and, the kind of philosophy perhaps that, transcends, these boundaries, the questions of gender, and, thinking and perhaps enacting that kind of madness that, she revels in, and that, perhaps never comes back to her. When I say her, I mean the woman writer, right? I've just tried to discuss, some of those brilliant pieces of verse with you, but, it could happen to any woman writer, any creative writer, for instance, who has that flicker of wisdom coming to her and going away, and the kind of consternation as a woman writer that, the person would feel within herself. And you know, you know, putting that in language, of course, you know, again, this is about, you know, envisaging, as I said, the finiteness of language, which is perhaps not enough, you know, to match the levels of the human imagination. But again, you see, that is what the office of the poet is all about, something that, I mean, is not everybody's forte, right? Something that the poet can achieve for herself or himself. So thank you very much for, you know, giving a patient hearing to me. And, you know, I myself feel very passionate whenever I talk about Dickinson, because, you know, that's one of those writers that I feel very close to. And I mean, and the kind of verse that she has created, you know, unfolds perhaps, you know, all that philosophy and mysticism that, and of course, many more things. Her poetry, her oeuvre is still in the process, you know, of discovery. And we have to really now count the ways in which her poetry could be really read, and we can feel the universality of such verse and such work. So thank you all very much for your patient hearing once again.
Thank you very much, Professor, for giving the you know, detail about actually addressing the question of, you know, why we don't have a female philosopher or thinker or something. Of course, I mean, we have a lot to know about. Thank you very much for giving such details. Now I would like to, because we are we have to catch the time, invite Dr. Amina Hussain to speak about her topic.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rajiv. And Professor Mosmi Banerjee, ma'am, that was a very insightful and a very comprehensive analysis. Thank you so much for it. And a very happy International Women's Day to everyone. Good evening to everyone. I know we've been connected from all parts of the world, and it is a different part of the, you know, day. So I just want to welcome you all to this you know, kind of you know, place where we all gathered. We did it last year also, and celebrated in our own kind of a way. So you know, I'm Dr. Amina Hussain, and I've been working and volunteering with Umran for some time now, working with Rajiv. And I believe that at Umran, you know, we staunchly believe and strive for, you know, in removing all the barriers and biases against women. And Umran Women's Magazine, which Rajiv will preview in a bit, is, I guess, is a testimony to that effort. Earlier, Taiba was talking about oneness and inclusivity, you know, and that's, I guess, is also very significant, especially today when I'm going to address the theme of digital gender divide. So International Women's Day 2023, I believe the theme for this year, which is Digit-All, and let me see if I can share my screen. Wait a minute. Okay, this is not what I wanted to share. So let me just open my presentation and okay. So I go, yeah. I believe it can be seen, right? Is it visible?
Yes, yes.
All right, so first I want to share this Digit-All, the innovation technology for gender equality. This is the theme for 2003 International Women's Day. And I think with this, we have rightly moved into the direction of exploring digital gender gap, you know, and its impact on widening economic and social inequalities. Now, exclusion of women from the digital world, you know, has roughly cost us around $1 trillion of the GDP, and it is a kind of a loss that is likely to increase unless we reverse the trend. And in order to reverse this trend, I believe we need a very gendered responsive approach towards technology, towards innovation, towards digital literacy, upgrading digital skill, anything that is digital, basically. Unfortunately, the digital revolution that took place, last decade or so, has of course thrown up, number of opportunities, but it also, in some ways, has perpetuated the pre-existing patterns of gender inequalities, which has exacerbated the digital gender divide. And in order to address this digital gender divide, we first of all, we need to recognize the importance of the rights, protection of the rights of the girls and women in the digital sphere, and also the ICT enabled, facilitated gendered violence. So we are obviously living in an increasingly digitalized world. There is no denying of the fact. In fact, we've been pushed, we've been kind of shoved, and unknowingly we have moved into this new era, I would say, powered by artificial intelligence. And it's important that the choices we make today, they're going to have a very profound impact on the kind of a new world order, a brave new world, which is just right there, and we cannot, go backwards, of course. So I guess we need to recognize this digital gender divide is crucial and it is real. So, so for my presentation, I thought that I wanted to move to, I wanted to look into the digital gender gap in India. Of course, we're going to look at the access, the implication, and what possible strategies we can have. Now, when I say digital gender gap, I basically refer to the unequal access, opportunities, or distribution, availability of the digital technologies between men and women. And it's no surprise that, the Indian women have, significantly less access, to internet. It's almost like 29% Indian women have access to internet in comparison with 48%, which is a global average. It's significantly less. So we need to look at the root cause. We need to analyze it and we need to address it, before it gets too late. So, so I wanted to share this, because this is the official UN poster for today's, to celebrate International Women's Day 2023, Digit All. Moving to, so first of all, let's look at the causes of digital gender gap. See, when women have limited access to the digital technologies, obviously it restricts women's access to healthcare facilities, to education, to job, to entrepreneurship, to everything. In fact, even to access to support line, to helplines, and make them more vulnerable to abuse. And one of the reasons is, of course, social cultural norms and, the gender bias that perpetuates in our societies, and more so in India, and where women, of course, they prioritize their domestic. So they prioritize their domestic, work more. And, even in houses with limited resources, the families usually give preference to their male child, considering that they are the ones who are going to be the, the bread earner of the family. And obviously, the girl child, is not given equal opportunities, now, there has been significant improvement in the number of the enrollment of the girl child, even in India, and it's a good trend to see. But again, one need to really highlight and underscore the fact that although there are more girl students doing well at the higher secondary or even at the secondary level, even scoring and getting even a better passing percentage than boys, which we all celebrate. But when we look at the labor market, very few of them, they're not being absorbed as a powerful workforce. And that's where these are the lacunae that we need to really address. That, okay, we are making improvement in terms of women getting education, but they're not coming back to the market. They're not coming back to they're not being productive outside their houses. And even on the productivity inside their home is barely recognized, So I guess, so there is some, facts here that I have jotted down. If you look at it, I just put it down. I can't even see my own presentation. So it says that 26% of women in rural areas and 56% of women in urban areas have completed their secondary education, in comparison to men. So we are slowly improving in terms of the access to education. I would definitely, agree. There is some kind of, good effort that has been done. It has materialized, but again, there is still, we are far away from, far behind in seeing the same girls coming back to us and working as a workforce. We lack. So economic factors is one of the major reasons, and here, of course, as one of the World Bank reports says, that women in India earn only 62% of what men earn. There is, of course, glaring economic disparities, and access to 35% of the women who do not use the internet. One of the reasons that they cited is the high cost of the devices. The internet, these digital technology is not easily accessible. It's not affordable. And also, when during the pandemic and, we had a very severe lockdown last 2 years, we've all seen that when we switched on to the online mode of education, many of my own students could not access, they could not attend the Zoom online session because they wouldn't have the data in their phone, or they wouldn't have the access to smartphones where they could also, attend the classes and attend those sessions. Many of them come from the remote parts of the country. So next is the infrastructure that I was telling. It is also one of the major cause. Internet connectivity is what we need to address. So of course, in the urban areas, we have good internet, but when it comes to the rural areas, we don't even have electricity, forget about internet. So, 25% of the women in the rural areas have access to internet compared to 45% of men. Men are more mobile, they can have access to internet and facility, but women are usually in the rural areas. They're stuck, in their setup, and they're not able to move and have access or make use of these digital opportunities that are available. So, so these barriers is something that need to be addressed. This is the stark reality in India. Access to digital technology, as I was telling you, that here I would like to specifically point out, yes, that this access to the marginalized, if we look at the marginalized communities, it is even worse, especially the Dalit and the Adivasi women. They face additional barriers in accessing digital technology. There's poverty, there's social exclusion, and there is discrimination. Adding to that, there's a lot of online abuse that women face. And here I would like to particularly talk about, there was an, I believe last year or a year before last, the Sulli deal thing came up, and I studied it where pictures, of Muslim women, women from minorities were taken up from their social media handles, their Twitter and their Facebook profiles, their personal details were hacked, and a fake app was made where these women were sold to the highest bidder, with all those, comments about their bodies and, very misogynistic, and then it became viral, and until it came in the newspapers. And most of these women were very, these women were powerful women. They were professionals, and they would freely express their opinion in public. They had an online presence. So there was an attempt to kind of, domesticate, or in some ways, cyber threat or cyberbullying, in order to, let these women not speak their mind, because 60%, according to one of the Amnesty report, it said that 60% of the women who face online abuse, they suffer from stress, they suffer from anxiety, they suffer from low self-esteem, and most of them ghost themselves out and never come back to never even attempt and dare to speak their mind freely. So anyways, here we also see that limited access to the digital technology affects women's access to health information and services. And this is very, very significant. And I think something that we need to work, because health, women's health, and especially in India, it has been one of the major concern, especially anemia. And in fact, in one of the pilot project, which I'm also a part of, it's been sponsored by the by the Uttar Pradesh government, where we are studying the gendering impact, of COVID-19 on the girl-child education, more specifically in the district tehsils, regions of Lucknow, and where we found that in these 2 years that the 2 years of complete lockdown, where the schools were shut and girls were unable to attend the schools, what happened was that many facilities that were available in the school, like the midday meals they used to get, so that was disbanded. They used to get some scholarship, which was again, it wasn't disbursed into their account. And this disruption, it had effects, like it increased, the prevalence of anemia, the medicine that they used to get free of cost from the school. So it has this, this integrated, kind of, the effect that we have seen on, especially on the girl child, and her access to the education and health and other services. And also, it is disappointing to note that the disruption in their education has been really, it has been significant, because these girls, many of them have not come back to it, because some of them have either got married. This has led to the early child marriage, so they've got married, or they have been burdened by household chores. And especially, at the time of the lockdown, there was so many restrictions, there was no help. So these girls were, the whole idea of the online education, and we're going hybrid mode and everything, and how technology has given us different modes of learning and education. Somehow, girls, and more specifically, when I talk about the rural areas and even in urban, have not been really part of those gains that we see that we have made in terms of technology, especially in education. So, yeah, so of course it has implications. It has tremendous implication that we've been talking about. It has implication on social empowerment. If there are no access to digital technologies, women will be excluded from the digital economy. The gains that the digital world is making, women will be excluded from it, and they are excluded, from it. We have very few percentage of women who are working in this sector, or even in the IT sector, for that matter. So, remote work from home and all these opportunities which is available now today, is, if we look at the study, we see that there is a huge disparity of women working from home vis-a-vis the, men working from home. So in fact, according to the survey by the Center of Social Research, 73% of women in India have faced, as I was telling you, online violence and harassment. And most of them, it goes unreported. The reason why it goes unreported, like in the case of Sulli deal, the example that I was giving you, and even the word Sulli is very pejorative term, which is used for Muslim women, like cheap, kind of a whore available for sale. So, so this was, so this apparently did come in news, but there was no action taken. One of the reasons is because the cyber violence against women it's proliferating, is because we do not have clearly defined laws. We don't have policies. We still like kind of thinking and mulling over it, but we don't have those clear policies and laws that are in effect, because we don't know what kind of humiliation and gendered violence online that women are facing, that, that we haven't really made enough policies and laws to safeguard our girls and women against them. So that's one thing. But of course, it has a great psychological impact, on girls, on cyberbullying, cyber stalking, all these incidents. Every day we read about it. So I guess also the lack of access to digital technology also, does not limits women's participation in the political and civic life, because today it's a digital world. So if you do not have a digital presence, if you do not have that, yeah.
We need to wind up because we are really exceeding our time.
So I wanted to talk about the strategies. I thought I'll be quick, and I was like really speaking at a super.
Wind up like in a minute, like, because we are all completely.
Okay, so I'm just winding up. That's it. Just few last. This is conclusion. So strategies. How can we have an inclusive development, and especially make a digital sphere more inclusive? Is, of course, we have to address these digital gender gap. We need more digital infrastructure. We need better connectivity. And I mean, of course, there are some schemes, like I want to especially talk about the government in India. We have a Digital India initiative, which is trying to provide all these, internet facilities in all parts of the country. And also women in tech programs, which is like kind of, implemented by, National Association of Software and, services companies. So we need this kind of, ventures for women to set up role models for women to get into the digital world. And of course, an enabling environment where women feel safe. And also at the end, I just want to conclude, I can see Rajiv is ready to, move on. So another very important thing that we need is there's a lack of data. So we need to work on getting a gender responsive data collection and analysis, because the more data we collect, and we will be in the better position to analyze what kind of, we can have evidence-based policies and intervention programs, against, gendered violence, and have a safer and more inclusive digital world. So I would just conclude with that, Rajiv. So that's it, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amina. And I will request now our UGS teachers and students to speak, but please keep a minute or maybe not more than 2 minutes to speak. So first, let me invite Aisha Saeed. She is learning Turkish language at Umran. So Aisha Saeed, are you there?
Yes, I'm very much there.
Yes, she's from Pakistan. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to congratulate Umran for hosting this program. It's been a very insightful discussion, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more such discussions. So I'd just like to say that Umran is a great initiative, and you're doing a very good job and giving opportunities to students from across the world. And these are very good learning opportunities. For instance, I have a 7-year-old daughter who has benefited from Umran's Turkish language class, and she's learning Turkish. And this is an opportunity that we might not have had there not been an initiative like Umran. So a good thing about this initiative is that there's only volunteers, and this is an ecosystem of support. So where we see in other organizations that there's a sort of cutthroat competition sort of environment, in Umran, what is different is the supportive environment. So all the best for this initiative, and I just hope for the success of this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for keeping your time. Thank you very much, and speaking about your role. Thank you so much. Now we have quickly, I'll invite Hiral Kablani to speak quickly. Yes.
नमस्ते, मैं उमरान में हिंदी की अध्यापिका हूं, तो मैं अपने कुछ विचार महिला दिवस पर हिंदी में प्रस्तुत करना चाहूंगी। जहां चाह वहां राह, महिला सशक्तिकरण में उमरान की भूमिका काबिले तारीफ है। उमरान गैर सरकारी संस्था भाषाओं के कार्यक्रम का संचालन करती है, जिससे मुझ जैसी अनेक शिक्षिकाओं तथा विद्यार्थियों को कुछ सीखने और सिखाने का मौका मिलता है। जो महिलाएं अपनी प्रतिभाओं को अंदर ही छुपा कर रखती हैं, उन्हें बाहर प्रदर्शित करने का मौका नहीं मिलता, उनके लिए उमरान एक अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मंच प्रदान करता है, जिससे उनके अंदर आत्मविश्वास बढ़ता है, और आत्मविश्वास से वे जिंदगी की कोई भी लड़ाई आसानी से लड़ सकती हैं। भाषाओं के ज्ञान से वे किसी भी विद्यालय में शिक्षिका की नौकरी आसानी से प्राप्त कर सकती हैं। उमरान आत्मनिर्भर बनाने में, महिलाओं को तैयार करने में महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाता है। यहाँ सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रम भी समय समय पर होते रहते हैं, जिससे हम अनेक देश की संस्कृतियों से परिचित होते हैं और वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की भावना सुदृढ़ होती है। हम उमरान के संस्थापक श्री राजीव कुमार के आभारी हैं, उन्हें धन्यवाद देते हैं। धन्यवाद राजीव। 4 पंक्तियां लिखी थी, मैं कविताएं लिखती हूँ तो 4 पंक्तियां भी सुनाऊंगी। विश्वास की प्रतिमूर्ति नारी, आस्था प्यार की आस नारी, निज अस्तित्व को संभालती, जीवन को सक्षम बनाए नारी। धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much. By the way, before I asked Dr. Amina to translate into English, I will say that I am not the provider something. I appreciate your contribution in Umran for making it. So I'm thankful for your contribution. So Dr. Amina, just give a brief what she said in English, if it's possible.
Okay, so first of all, it was said so beautifully in Hindi. I don't know if I can do justice to it, but Hiralal ma'am she was praising Raji for giving the opportunity, and she's a Hindi teacher. She teaches Hindi at Umran Academy, and she believes that Umran is a platform where we not only teach language, but we are also doing a lot of cultural programs. And in those cultural programs, we emphasize on women empowerment. And she's a poet. She also writes poetry. And I mean, absolutely, I would even dare to translate her poem.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for
So thank you, ma'am.
So now I will invite.
Hiralal. I am Hiral. She said Hiralal. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So sorry, Hiral.
So I will now ask Salima Khan. She is our English teacher and also coordinator for the English language department. Salima Khan will speak. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I wish you a very happy International Women's Day. So everyday women moves mountains, sometimes inside home or outside, and sometimes within herself. In Umran, my teaching experience was such that I have gathered so many anecdotes of so many powerful women who got a safe place to polish their language skills. And sometimes they would just narrate their stories and cry. It was, a very bittersweet experience at the same time. So this is a very good virtual place where women are supporting women and building up a compassionate world. So we need to build up others and promote women empowerment, because we know what it is to be like toned down. It's a very, it's a place where I think we are bridging cultural gaps as well as supporting women, a very safe place to polish your skills as an educator and also to learn something new. So that's it. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Salima, for your contribution and you leading this project of Umran. Now I will ask, let me ask Shivani. Shivani, could you please speak briefly, yes, Shivani.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Shivani. I'm a volunteer in Umran, and I would like to begin by wishing everyone a very happy International Women's Day. As theme for today is "My soul is a woman," I would like to quote, "A woman's soul is hidden behind veils of societal expectation and stereotype. These words remind us of the importance of empowering women and creating a world where their voice is and contribution are valued and heard." And this is exactly what Umran's been doing. Its contribution towards bridging the gap of gender inequality by including so many women volunteers, where their ideas are celebrated and they are often, their creativity is, and their ideas and creativity and their voice are heard in a way they are contributing in the development of a society. So I would like to thank Rajiv and every member of Umran for providing such a platform for women to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shivani, for your role. I really appreciate. And now I will invite Nahid Aslam to keep to a minute. She wants to say something. Nahid Aslam. Are you there? So before she comes, I would like to ask Shaina Farooq. Would you like to say Shaina Farooq?
Yes, sir. Right now, I was waiting for my turn.
Okay, great.
Okay, just a minute.
You can unmute your.
Sorry, I was just coming from. Okay. Before beginning my speech, I would like to wish greeting and salutation to everyone present here. women empowerment, I would like to say on this topic. Basically, women empowerment is about the having equal rights as men should have. I'm from India, as we know that in India, 50% of population is protected by women, and all the development is depend on men. Means, I don't know why I'm just this is my first time. That's why I'm just. Women empowerment simply refers to the having the same rights a man should have. Empowering women means they can be self-dependent. In India, 50% population protected by women, only so that country full development depend on half of the population. That means women who are not empowered and still restricted by many social causes of abuse. As we can see that in many countries, there is a tradition of worshipping many female goddesses, including honoring women roles in society, such as mother, aunt, wife, etc. But does it mean that the country's need for growth can be fulfilled by the respecting or honoring women? In order, I really give women empowerment to Indian society. The main cause of evil practices against women that are the hierarchical and male-dominated societies structure need to be understood and abolished. We should definitely give women their equal rights. In present days, are equal, as we can observe that nowadays people accepted modernization.
Thank you very much, Sana. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sana. I think you are finished, right? So thank you very much, Sana, and everyone from the Umran team. Now we have now very close to the end of our program. I will be previewing. I will be previewing the magazine, and we'll have a feedback from you as well. And then we will have, from the audience, Professor Bruce will be speaking a little bit, perhaps if he's there. So then, otherwise we will be having the closing remarks of these events.
Sir, can I say something?
Like we are already out of time, my friend Suhail. So.
Okay, I just read some lines for International Women's Day.
So let me.
It's okay, sir. If you have any time, then it's okay.
So I don't want to keep our professors waiting. Where is this? Just a minute.
Rajiv, I wonder if Rajiv, can I just mention something? Yes. I think that this is much too much for today, because why not do this next week? Because I think it's important for us to stay in touch with each other. It's been a long break since we were last all together. And then we can have a real discussion about it, because I think it deserves a serious discussion, so that you can get feedback, because I feel that it's going to be rushed. Unfortunately, we're really out of time, and you're going to lose your audience. I've noticed it's already less than half of what it was. So I would plan a session around it. I think lots of us would be really interested in doing that, but I don't think that this is the right time.
Yes, you are right, Professor. So we will have our closing remarks by Professor Miriam Cook for this event. So I welcome Professor Mariam Koo.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will, because of the lack of time, I will try to be very, very quick. So first of all, Taiba, Riaz, I liked your comments very much. And I thought that it might be important to think about something like Schimmel's title, right? My Soul is a Woman. And I think I share with you, if I heard correctly, the concern about this radical dichotomization, because we all live on a continuum, right? So we have the nafs, and then we have the jasad, or the badan. So if we're using Arabic terms, so the nafs as the soul. And then the soul is also on a continuum, right? It's on a continuum from a nafs al-amara to a nafs al-lawama to a nafs al-mutma'inna. So we have the soul in its struggle between what it is ordered to do that is bad, that's evil. Then we have the soul al-lawama that blames the soul that is drawn into evil. And then when the struggle is resolved, but it's always on the continuum between the amara and the mutma'inna, there is a sense of peace that is achieved, but it's always a struggle. And so, Taiba, to go back to what you were saying, we live on the spectrum. Physically, we are on a spectrum between male and female. We have the same sexual organs, they're just differently arranged. We are on a spectrum, we women, to men. And so My Soul is a Woman, written as it was in the early days of the Islamic feminist movement, in other words, during the 90s, was still in this recuperative mode. And I was hearing some of this recuperation in some of the talks, and we need to do that. But I think we also have to do a number of other things on International Women's Day. We have to, with Professor Banerjee, we have to think about women who are being targeted and who are suffering. So we have, of course, what's going on in Turkey and Syria. So had we had time, I would have liked to have spent at least a minute, if not 2 minutes, of silence so that we think about that, but there's no time. Maybe when we have our session on the journal, we can pay respect to not only those who have survived, but of course to the 50,000 dead. We need to think about what's going on in Iran. Women who are killed by the police for not covering their hair properly, schoolgirls who are being poisoned, modeling themselves, these men who are against women being educated, modeling themselves on Boko Haram, modeling themselves on the Taliban. We need to think about that. And we need to think about who we are. And so, Professor Banerjee, to go back to Emily Dickinson, I think it's really important, her little verse, I am nobody. Are you nobody too? And I think that's so important, and especially when we're thinking about how important it is for us not to put ourselves above others. And so in closing, I want to quote from a contemporary woman saint and Sufi master. She likes to call herself a Sufi master, who is in Istanbul, so where Umran was born. Her name is Cemal Nur Sargut, known to people who love her as Cemal Nur Hocam. And in a discussion about Zulekha in the Surah Yusuf, so in the Joseph Surah, the 12th Surah in the Quran, she says this, and so I'm going, these are the words of Cemal Nur Sargut that she dedicates to her Sufi master, so Samiha Ayverdi. So we need to think on this International Women's Day about the connection that we have that goes back not only to Aisha and Khadija and Zainab and all the great women around Muhammad in the 7th century, but we need to think about those women in the past who played such an important role. And so I would like to close with Cemal Nur Hocam's words. And she says, in one of his poems, Attar said, Zulekha was sitting by the road through which Joseph was supposed to pass. When she caught sight of Joseph, she let out such a heartfelt cry that the whip caught fire from her cry. Joseph, unable to carry the whip anymore, threw it away. On seeing this, Zulekha let out another cry. Oh God, look at this. He is a great messenger, and I am but a poor woman. Yet when just a little bit of the fire that I carry in my illuminated heart touched his hand, he was unable to bear it, and he threw the whip. If it weren't for the Zulekhas of the time, who would know the value of Joseph? This means, if it weren't for the prophet, how else would God's meaning be known? Annemarie Schimmel, whom I love very much, was an expert on Rumi. In her book, titled My Soul is a Woman, which she dedicated to Samiha Ayverdi. So here, another connection, right? So we have the Arab connection, the Egyptian connection, but here we have a connection from a silsila of female saints. And what Cemal Nur Hocam is doing here is she's bringing Annemarie Schimmel into the silsila. Annemarie Schimmel, whom I love very much, was an expert on Rumi. In her book, she says, your spirit is the station of love. In this statement, and that of Attar's, woman represents the nafs. When the prophet said, I was made to love women, he was referring to the necessity of the nafs, without which no spiritual progress is possible. So I think so important to think about the nafs, not as a woman, not as absolutely good, not as a man, absolutely bad, but always in the struggle to become al-insan al-kamil, to become a perfected human. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, for connecting all this at the end. I apologize for exceeding the time. I could not manage it. Hopefully from the next event, I will be keeping it. Thank you very much for your time, precious time, and making this event a wonderful event and memorable event. We will be having previewing our magazine in our next session, and we'll have a comprehensive and detailed feedback from you. I will not take much time anymore for now. I'll be wishing you, Professor Miriam is in the US. I will be wishing her a very good day and happy International Women's Day. Professor Mosmiji Banerjee, thank you very much for your comprehensive understanding of your feminism and connecting with the Emily Dickinson on this day. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good night. And also, Professor Bruce Lawrence, have a good day. Dr. Amina, thank you very much for your participation. Thank you very much, Taiba Riaz, hero of this event today. Thank you very much. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. And
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you. Thank you all the participants.
Thank you very much, Rajiv.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank